Whenever I think about my binge watch of Quake of the Creek, I didn't remember all of them in the same ways as We Bear Bears and Steven Universe, but considering that this episode out of them all is one of the only ones I remembered the most, and it ended up becoming one of my least favorite episodes from Quake of the Creek, is really saying something. I have to be perfectly honest. It's really complicated to find an episode that is considered the worst involving this show. It's kind of like the same way. It's kind of like Gravity Falls when there's only one bad episode, but at the same time, upon watching it, after listening to so many people on it's being one of the worst episodes, mainly Roadside Attraction, I had mixed opinions that I didn't find that episode as bad as everyone else thinks. But when it comes to this episode, even though the motivations of characters like Kelsey somewhat makes sense to make an episode centering around that, but at the same time, the execution of them all just really makes it difficult for me to find any quality in this episode. A Lone Quest is one of those episodes where you watch the first time that you may find it okay, but after watching more Kelsey episodes, you can instantly tell that this episode has become the least favorite when it comes to Kelsey episodes, along with the fact that some people may describe this episode as one of the worst episodes from Quake of the Creek. The plot of this episode is, well, Craig really needs to go to the bathroom, so he, along with JP, needs to find a bathroom in the neighborhood while Kelsey goes on a quest alone. And that quest is mainly being herself and doing nothing important, like interacting with the Creek characters. That's basically the plot of this entire episode. I know there's more involving Kelsey's story when it comes to her Alone quest, but at the same time, it didn't got me invested in her character, knowing forward that the other episodes involving her did a much more better job. Look, I understand that the episode is called Alone Quest for a reason. Well, children in Kelsey's age do stuff like she does whenever she's alone or with or unless she's with a pet like Mortimer, but the thing is, it really feels like that this entire episode is realistic, but done for the wrong reasons. It's being too realistic, and it's really saying something while the subplot centers around Craig desperately needs to go to the bathroom for the emergency. And if people are going to address on how children of Craig's age felt this way on going to the bathroom for a huge emergency, I'm pretty sure that this shouldn't be centered around the episode, since Craig has probably went through this scenario multiple times, and even though they may be important to use the bathroom when you're a far away distance from any restroom facility or something, it doesn't really change the fact that making a subplot centering around that all the while that Kelsey is just doing her own thing, it didn't really make this episode entertaining, and it didn't give me the impression that using the bathroom at Craig's age is something that we can relate to. Like, it may be, but at the same time, it just feels like the weakest element to make an episode or subplot out of it. The majority of Craig's subplot is mainly him being in scenarios where Craig's parents' house is completely locked when it comes to the front door and back, and whenever they find different scenarios, it just didn't work out, and Jessica instantly thinks that Craig is being someone else, all the while she refuses to open the door because of Bernard doing something. Mainly something that he needs privacy from Craig. If you ask me, I understand that this is the type of behavior that children of the ages of Jessica and Craig have went through, but if you're literally making an episode or subplot centering around Craig desperately needing to use the bathroom with this type of execution, it really shows that nowadays people don't make these types of episodes because of how poorly executed this episode is. Granted, it's not the worst when it comes to gross outs, like the mention of poop every now and then towards the end, but in all honesty, considering that they didn't go too severe on the gross out humor, I guess this is the only positive that this show can do, is that it's less disgusting compared to the other episodes that center around people desperately need to use the bathroom, and they do a lot of gross out humor every now and then in order to do something interesting, but at the end of the day, it just does the complete opposite of interesting. Getting back to Kelsey, for some reason, in the other episodes centering around her, they always do something interesting with her character and try to make her unique when it comes to her interactions with other characters. But in this episode, when there's no one for her to cooperate other than her pet, then it's difficult for me to find any investment. The thing is, if you're going to have the elements of Kelsey writing something that involves her own fantasy world, you need to do something interesting rather than her being alone, because all I can think of her in this episode is mainly her being the representation of what people would usually feel like whether they're alone, which is understandable, but at the same time, that doesn't make an episode good. Because if anything, if you're literally going to have Kelsey go through all this on her own, then it's a complete waste of time, because I don't find anything entertaining involving any of the scenes involving Kelsey in this. It may be part of her character, but considering that she has no one to work with other than her pet, and the end of this episode is mainly basically everyday life involving the Creek people, well, Craig is really glowing after using the bathroom, and the ending is just mainly a conversation between Kelsey and JP because they were doing charades, then this really feels like that these types of characters would have been better off if it happened with other characters in the Creek, not just Craig, JP, and Kelsey. I can't be that invested involving Kelsey's motivation of writing her fantasy book, considering that in the LGBT episode I talked about nearly a year ago, it was a better execution involving Kelsey's character, which is saying a lot considering that episode was from season 4. And this episode was nearly at the end of season 1. So for me personally, it really shows that the humble beginnings involving Craig of the Creek were mainly from these episodes that didn't do much of justice to give Craig of the Creek the proper humble beginnings. But who am I kidding? It's difficult to have the perfect humble beginnings of a first season of a cartoon or any show for that matter. My point is that this episode is worthless, and even though that there may be other episodes from the show that could be worse than this or on the same level, but at the same time, after looking into it a lot more, this episode really feels like one of those episodes that you would skip and you would miss nothing at all. If I'm gonna be honest, if I ever want to experience alone time or alone quest, I would definitely take a walk outside. That's basically the only closest way I'm ever going to get alone time, even though that I'm an adult while these characters are children. If you ask me, the more you grow older, the more you realize how difficult it is to relate to these types of episodes when the execution is that poor. I'm giving this episode a 3.75 out of 10.